Welcome to WtFun podcast with Kimmy,
Kisa,
and Renee.
Glad you can join us as we explore all aspects of entertainment and current events with industry professionals, friends, and us. Welcome. And now episode 7. I like to note it every time we start a new episode where we're at so that not only do we get confused easily, but just so that everyone else doesn't get confused as to what you're listening to and to keep us on track. We're now on episode 7. Yay!
Yay. Unlike the time we were on episode 4, but we kept saying we were episode 3 and then realized
Oh my gosh.
4.
That was the funniest thing
3
ever.
and it was 4. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, it was 4, but we kept saying 3. We don't know. We have to say it for ourselves, not for anybody else.
but you know what? I just love how, we just forget it. Just let it go. Let it roll. With all the mistakes. It's okay.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. So hopefully everyone's listened to our other bonus editions of Cubicle Chat. One of the things we had recently shared across the board was, Renee, learning that Renee also loves Filet-O-Fish. Our love and passion for the Filet-O-Fish sandwich from McDonald's. And so a couple weeks ago, or was it last week? A few weeks ago.
It was last week.
It was last week.
Yeah.
See, I'm losing track of time.
We also don't know what time it is. So
we don't know the episode, don't know the time. But last week I took a picture of the sale that was going on with the Filet-O-Fish. And so I hashtagged it. And then Renee also went to go visit the McDonald's and got herself.
I was inspired. Yes.
She was inspired. She got herself some Filet-O-Fish and she hashtagged Filet-O-Fish. And all of a sudden, we started getting followers.
Yes. We've started a movement and we love it. So if you guys enjoyed that episode and at the same time, just like taking pictures of food, like Kimmy does, revisit the Filet-O-Fish. It's so good.
Yes, please, because I love me a good portrait of a Filet-O-Fish sandwich. It's so sexy. But, in addition to Filet-O-Fish, there are other things that we talk about. So if you see something that, that relates to, some of our topics or whatever it may be, please, hashtag it. Like when we were talking about zip lining and how I would rather kick it at the crackle barrel, not cracker.
It is a cracker.
Oh,
it's
cracker.
Yeah.
It's cracker barrel.
Oh my gosh, I am such an embarrassment to this podcast team.
I was with you. I thought it was Crackle Barrel too.
Well, let the record show that we didn't know what it was called. We were all calling it Crackle Barrel, and then one Google search corrected us.
To Google it.
Thank goodness for Google. What would we do without it?
Okay. So if you happen to be having breakfast, lunch, or dinner at the Cracker Barrel,
hopefully you say it like that too.
Just like that. Hashtag it. Share some of your adventures with us. We want to share all the fun of what our followers are doing because it's what fun, right? What the fun?
Yes. And let's just take this opportunity right now to say, guys, feel free to follow us on Facebook if you haven't already, and send us messages, send us information, what you guys want to hear from us, what you want to talk about. We have, Rikiki Productions is up and running. And
yes,
WtFun podcast was our initial.
It's our first little snippet.
But we have plans for more. We want to do so much more, but we want to hear from you guys too and see how that's going and whether you guys are liking the podcast, what you like to hear from the podcast. Also just engagement, just all around engagement, because that'll be very helpful for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This show is all about, I mean, it's for you guys. It's for all of our listeners, for everyone out there who's, interested or intrigued by the entertainment industry. And, anything that we could do to help get you that information or what stuff that you want to hear, as Renee was saying, give us that feedback, we can only do better when we get feedback, right? So
Yeah.
let us
Yeah.
know. Let us know. And yeah, Rikiki Productions is going to expand. Podcast is just one little segment to, a couple other things that we want to produce in the future. Webisodes, we want to do some comical stuff, whether it's comedy or educational, whatever it may be. We want to start broadcasting webisodes on media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, and other areas where we can load, videos onto, and also live performances. We are creatively talented like that. We love to manage shows, create shows, and just, bring entertainment to everybody. And so that's another avenue that we're looking into once this whole COVID situation ends and we can resume performing on stage again. So mini concerts, big concerts, musical productions, tiny productions, whatever it may be, we want to start venturing into other avenues while podcasting away. So, and who knows, maybe we might even produce other podcast shows, underneath the Rikiki umbrella. So, please subscribe to all of our platforms because it's going to help us. We really need the support from all of you, from our YouTube site to Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of our podcast platforms and YouTube. We need all the support by you guys subscribing to it so that helps us boost sponsorships and hopefully get recognition from others. And also, last but not least, is us thanking you guys. Thank you so much for listening to our rants, our banters, our shenanigans, our awesome guests, us screwing up episodes. But it's you guys. We love what we do, and we do this for you. So thank you for supporting us constantly.
Yes. Well said, Kimmy.
Thank you. I thought about it while I was in the shower
because you took a shower. I'm proud of you.
I took a shower. I did. So, along the lines of producing all these upcoming projects, we've got our next guest joining us today, who is a type of producer who produces, music.
He does produce music. He's actually a really joyful person to speak with. So it was really nice getting to know him. I know that you were down there that weekend that we recorded, and so you got to spend like physical time with him because he's one of your close friends. So that's really cool. I just love how we got very serious. This is perhaps the most serious,
cubicle chat
pre-show segment we've ever had.
It's so true. But, it's like at one point, when do we get to, acknowledge, our business of making it happen? And also, again, just reinforcing our gratitude to our listeners. So, yes, Jeff. Oh my gosh, his voice is so soothing.
It is. It's very soothing.
Yeah, it is.
It's like a Barry White soothing voice,
So, and that's good for someone who also does voiceovers. So it's kind of cool to see his how his career has evolved throughout the years.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Definitely.
And we love a good entrepreneur. That's I feel like everybody that we've been talking to is just gone off and done their own thing, and this is what we're doing as well. We're doing our own thing, so. We're all about entrepreneurship here at WtFun podcast.
That is so true.
Yes.
And that happened with that one too, and that one too. Episode 5, episode 3.
Hopefully it gives inspiration that you can do whatever you want to do. You don't need somebody else.
And the true entrepreneur, which to me is always like the performer, because they're hustling. They're out there every day themselves. Yep. So yeah. Anyway, so that's exciting. This is an exciting time, guys.
Yay! So, joining us today is a very talented voice over actor who is actually one of my dearest friends. Now, you've heard his voice in commercials, movie previews, documentaries, and coming soon animation, which is a project that he and I were working on. Also, another thing that I wanted to point out too is besides lending his voice to television, he is also an accomplished music producer under JD Music, creating dance pop hits for artists where he's charted over 250,000 downloads on all digital download sites. And then also check this out, 500,000,000 combined plays on YouTube. Okay, now without further ado, I want to welcome to the show my dearest friend, Jeff Wells. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Hello,
Hi,
hello.
Yay!
Jeff.
Hello, how are you girls today? Ladies, women, fantastic human beings.
We're
Oh,
good. We
we
are excited. We are excited to have you.
We're excited to be here. Uh, Kim has been my guest for the last couple of nights here because we have another great friend of ours, Corey, from out of town. And
yeah.
we had a great night last night watching Harlem Nights, just enjoying it. It's great.
Yes, we
That's
did.
awesome.
So, Jeff, yesterday, we had an opportunity to chat with you briefly, and we heard some of your backstory in regards to singing. I know that you
Hmm.
stepped on stage at a very young age, around 4 years old, I believe, singing with
Yeah,
your
4 or 5.
4 or 5 years old, singing with your dad, and it was something that you were passionate about, and you actually continued to pursue singing even though the odds were not in your favor, but you had this ear for
No.
music. You just had this knack for music and could you know um pick up on these things, and so now you've stumbled into music production. Tell us about that journey as being a music producer and how you just became passionate about that.
Um, Long story short, I most of my life spent, trying to put a band together, and I was really into the Color Me Bad, Boys to Men, the
Mhm.
Shy, the ultimate harmony groups of the early '90s, right?
Yeah, like a little boy
And
band group.
kind of, yeah. But we had a
Yeah.
little, and
But sexier.
eventually, of course, obviously, um,
You said color me bad.
um, I eventually, as I told the story yesterday, after years and years of just not going anywhere, and ended up having a family, and putting everything on the back burner 1,000 times over, working on my real life business, to pay the bills. um One day I hear, I'm watching TV, and it was Britney Spears, "Hit Me Baby One More Time" came on, and I was like, oh my god, if I could, this is the stuff that's in my head, this sound, this what ended up being the Sharon Studios sound. Max Martin, Rami, Christian London, all these guys in Sweden in this one studio were kicking out massive, massive, massive hits. By far and away the most successful production house in history.
Hmm.
And I wanted to be that. I mean, I am, 16% Scandinavian, so maybe it's in my blood. The Swedish sound, the ABBA, the Swedish pop sound is in my blood.
Mhm.
So I ended up eventually getting a Korg Triton keyboard, which was the pinnacle of all keyboards. Almost every song you heard in the mid to late '90s was made with a Korg Triton keyboard, at least somewhere in that mix. And started making tracks, eventually opened my own studio, and that's where I met Simon, and we began to make what turned out to be some really, really incredible pop music that became very successful independently.
Mhm.
On the verge of a major record deal 3 different times. Had one offer which was declined because it was horrible. The offer was horrible. We would have been slaves forever, or he would have been. I was just along for the ride, I guess. But you just something you just fall into, and you're either you don't go to school for it. A lot of people
Mhm.
go to school to be a producer. It's like going to school to be a chef. You can learn how what ingredients go where,
Hmm.
Mhm.
but you just have to have that thing. And that was something that I have blessed to have, and I'm pretty good at it. So it's something that I've never achieved superstardom, but done well independently. And I know that probably the biggest reason why, and as far as this being a video for people in the industry,
Mhm.
what I did wrong is not market myself. I never marketed myself because I was too busy worrying about what I was doing. And frankly, I just felt you just have this awkwardness of trying to market yourself, when somebody else is doing it for you and tells you how great you are. It's cool. When you tell yourself how great you are and you start telling everybody else how great you are, it comes across as kind of arrogant. I always had an issue with that. But it was also my downfall. It's why I never made that, multi-platinum producer status, I believe.
You know what? So something that just struck me right now, and I'm deviating from what we planned, but it's
I
fine.
deviate all the time.
You said it's like entertainment is a brutal business. We all know that. So I guess what keeps you coming back into entertainment? Like what makes you want to stay in the entertainment business?
You ever dated that person who you just tried to break up with and it was just so damn good? You just couldn't walk away. It's like, look, I know you're horrible. I know you're bad for me, but damn, it was good. That's me with music. It's just, I have this saying that I used to say a lot, and you guys asked me one of my favorite sayings, and I didn't write this one down, but this is one of them. You're not what you do what you are.
Yeah.
And it's just so ingrained in me that I don't know how to do everything else. I mean, I spent most of my schooling time preparing to be a lawyer because I like to argue and I'm good at it. So I figured might as well get paid for it, right? So,
Right.
and I also talk a lot, so I decided to get paid for that instead. And as much as the thought of being a trial lawyer was really it's fun. I actually did a lot of mock trials in school, and I was in front of the judges, and I did it. And I loved it. But there's just not that passion, and there's just something about always coming back to the music that you do, even when you're sick and tired of this shit business. You just feel like sometimes I just got to sit down and make a track. I just have to sit down and create something, and it is an outlet, especially in these trying times with all the craziness going on now.
Right.
I find myself coming in here to the studio and just sitting down and just playing for 2 hours, just playing, and it just lets you go. I think it's anybody who does music on a serious level understands exactly what I'm saying. It's just part of who you are, and it's impossible. It's like trying to rip out your soul and throw it in the trash. You just can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Thank you.
So then honing that craft is important, right? So even if you're not like the top singer or producer, or how do you get there? You put in the work. So you mentioned yesterday that you honed your craft, that you kept getting educated and learning. And even when you started transitioning into voiceovers, that you took classes and continued to grow in that aspect. How passionate are you about that?
When everybody, because of the state of technology, everybody and their dog thinks they are Dr. Dre. Everybody's got Fruity Loops. Everybody thinks that they're a producer. And when I started out doing this, the rate of progress in technology from just 15 years ago to now is night and day. To have what I have on GarageBand now would have cost $10,000 15 years ago. When I was a teenager trying to do the singing things, I mean, you're talking $250,000 to have a studio that I have in a little box right now. It's same technology is in this little, Universal Audio Apollo Twin, as it was a $250,000 studio 25 years ago. So you have to understand that there are people that are always going to be able to teach you something. I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of hours behind this board mixing and learning and trying to figure out things and get it right. I mean, as I said, to Kim the other day, I said, you're not really a producer until you've had those. And then you're a producer. Otherwise you're a beat maker. It's two different things. And when you can hear a vocal and know that, okay, I need to scoop this at 200 hertz. I need to add a 1/8 delay with a small plate reverb with a 2.5 second delay, 2.5 second tail at the end of it, and kind of had an idea what it's going to sound like before that even happens. Then you're a producer. And when you can visualize things and make them tangible, then you're a producer. When you hear things and you can make it reality, then you're a producer. And no matter how good you are, there is some other little tech rat who is sitting in his computer who's, Zed. Everybody knows Zed, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Zed is Max Martin's little protege. This kid is a classically trained pianist and a total little tech nerd. Same with Circuit. He worked with Dr. Luke. These guys were young, little, frankly, nerds who just had everything technically down perfect. And they've spent thousands of hours doing that. And those are the kids that really, really end up being phenomenal.
Mhm.
And those guys are so far advanced than almost anybody. And you don't realize how much you don't know until you meet somebody who's spent their life in the studio. I mean, the first time I ever went to a major studio was Will Smith's Boom Boom Room in Burbank. And we recorded a song there by with a guy that wrote one of Britney Spears' big hits. And our engineer at the time, this is a guy that had been around for years, and he just the simple things that you don't realize you don't know that these engineers can teach you. Being around and immersing yourself in that life with other people who know a lot is very, very, very key. Immerse yourself in like-minded people and don't think you know everything. No matter how good you are, there's always somebody that knows way more than you do.
Yeah. So there's always an opportunity to.
Always. Always. Never stop learning. Ever, ever, ever.
Okay, so someone else we both know in common was on our show not too long ago, Mr. Simon Curtis. Now, you've worked with him before on earlier projects. How is that dynamic working together?
It was a moment of magic when we sat down in the studio together, and I was like playing this, and he was like, "This is exactly the stuff I got in my head," and I'm hearing him sing, and I'm like, "That's the kind of sound that I'm looking for in my head." It worked out really well.
And
Very special moment.
so that instant magic, did you ever experience that with anyone else other than Simon?
One other person, and that would be Rochella Danashe, aka Wolfie Jones, who's the lead singer of Candy Coated Chaos. I mean, she and I did 2 solo albums together, and ended up doing hundreds and hundreds of licensing spots on MTV background shows and Showtime shows and a lot of VH1 shows. She was another person that was just instant magic because she just had that thing. She just got it. And it's a special, special thing to find that person who just gets it.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Hey, why don't you do, I got it." Okay.
Yeah. You could it's almost like you could read each other's minds.
You read each other, you don't even
know.
Right.
Yeah.
It just happens, and you start to speak and they start to speak, and okay.
I got
We're
it.
on the same wavelength. It's cool. It's a great feeling. Rare as hell. Great feeling.
Yeah. So what do you do if somebody is not on that same wavelength as you, with the artist that you don't have that special magic moment with?
Breathe. You just accept it for what it is, and you try your best to convey, and that's when being a producer comes into play, and you hear it on the radio all the time. And that's why we have auto-tune and things like that, because a lot of people don't get it. The vast majority of people don't get it. I told you yesterday, if you ever want to see what it's like in the life of a music producer or anybody in the music industry, American Idol is real. I mean, it's not hard. People think, oh, they pick and choose to find these really horrible people. No, they don't. They're everywhere. And the amount of people who really truly believe they have that gift is astonishing. And I've had to, when I had early on, when I had 2 business partners in my studio, they called me the Simon Cowell of the studio, because I was the only one that would be like, "This ain't for you."
Yeah.
Like, sorry. Like, and then, they'll bring the whole family in, and family's, "Oh, you're so good." I'm like, "Oh, really?" So it's tough, but no, you take what you know and you try to make it the best you can. I've got songs that people ended up turning out pretty good because I was able to manipulate what they did do, what they did give me. You give me a clean vocal that's remotely on key, and I'll make it at least sound presentable.
So, for someone who's not familiar with the music industry, help us understand the difference between independent music versus record deal.
Independent music means you can do what you want. Independent means you can have the freedom to put out what you want. You don't really have to care what somebody else says. You don't have a focus group of people saying that, this is what you want, this is what you don't want. And it means, in most cases, if you're successful, a lot more money. If you're not successful, it's because you didn't have the major label, because the major label has the apparatus of promotion. And if you have money, if you have a lot of money, anybody listening, if you have a lot of money and you want to get on the radio, let me know. I can make it happen. But it's it takes a tremendous amount of money to succeed in the music business. You either have to have it put up for you, or put it up yourself, or a record label does it. Now, the problem with being with a record label is the industry has changed so much. You almost have to already be really successful for the label to even touch you. And the label just, used to, the label would say, hey, this kid made a batch of pancakes. They tasted really good. Let's enhance this formula. Let's work it. Let's focus group it, and let's build it, and let's make a house of pancakes. Well, now you have to have a chain of house of pancakes, and all they want to do is take it international. They want to take what you already did and work hard and just duplicate it. And it's easy to do. It's an easier game for the labels. And in other words, in other areas, it's very hard for the labels, because the independent artists are like, why do I need you? I'm making plenty of money right now. You have a lot of the rappers, and they're signed to independent labels that are basically people that had money, that did what they could have done had they had the money. And these guys are making 10 times as much money as they would have if they'd had a record label selling the same amount of records. All things being equal, if you can sell 100,000 records independently versus 1 million records on a label, you probably make more money independently on 100,000.
So before we move on to talking about your voiceover stuff, you say you were 25 years old when you started actually going into the production business. Do you feel that you were older than most people that were getting into that, or do you feel you were the right age at the time and still now?
At the time, because that was a long time ago. That was 19 years ago, 20 years ago, and at the time, yeah, I think I was about the right age, because kids ages 17, 18, unless they were from a rich family, could not afford most of the stuff that you needed to do to be competitive, to make a sound that was competitive. Everything at that time, unless it was a ridiculous studio, you could just tell with the sound of it that it was not a high quality studio. You could tell a demo studio from a professional studio. So I think at that time, early 20s was pretty normal. Now, God no, it's just 13-year-old kids out there that are selling. Hell, we met one not long ago that was 16 years old who has 1.5 million streams a month on Spotify, and I'm like, these kids are getting really young because technology has enabled them to have the tools, and a lot of these programs like Fruity Loops, you don't even have to play. You just assemble pre-played things that sound legit because they're already professionally mixed, and you can make something that sounds really, really, really high end that can compete with what's on the radio. And so no, I think now if you're not starting at 14, 15 years old, you're behind the curve. Not that you can't do it, but you're just behind the curve.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you were saying earlier, with marketing yourself, and now you have your social media.
Social media is everything.
It's like people, like you said, 16-year-old kids have hundreds of millions of views on YouTube and Spotify.
You have to have a social media presence in 2020. You have to.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. If you don't have 10,000 followers, nobody cares. And nobody cares about 10,000 fake followers. You have to put out content. You have to put out, even if it's you doing cover things here and there. Preferably, if you can do it the right way. If you have original material, record your original material. Make sure it's copywritten and registered with BMI and ASCAP before you do it, before you put it out there. That way somebody can't just steal it. But putting out your music, getting people to follow you, getting a following, and then having the product to serve to those people is very key. So, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You kind of have to have social media to get the music heard. but you got to start somewhere. You have to start putting out some content, even if it's covers.
So when you have like the perfect mixture, you have great social media, you have a fantastic voice. The next key is having a good song and a great producer, or
Yeah.
is it just having a great producer and that song can suck?
It's not even about a song anymore or a producer. It's about the name.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the name, second best thing you can have is the product. And in order to get the best product, you either have to be, there are a lot more self-produced artists than there used to be. Some people do it better. There's a lot because of the amount of people that have it. Obviously, the percentage of people that are able to do it well is still very low, but the number of people is higher that can produce their own stuff and make it sound good. But you almost always need that third party person to really make it better, to make it really perfect. And even as a producer, I do my own mixing too, but a lot of producers send it to a third party mixer. So there's like, the artist, the person who wrote the song, then the producer, and then the mixer, and then the masterer. It's like 4 different people all putting their own touch on it. And that's how that's thousands and thousands of dollars per song.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah.
But it's so like the artistry is there. Everyone is putting something in it. Making it.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And only one person gets credit for it, the artist.
The artist, exactly.
That is why you're here today. We want our listeners to understand the music producer's role. So, okay, so you've spent many years producing music, writing music. You still do it till this day. But then there's another avenue that you've shifted into, and that is voiceover work. How did you get into that business?
The very first time I ever had any conception of it, when I was younger, we moved from here in California to Oklahoma, and I was about 15. And I used to call in all the time to the local radio station in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now it's K Hits, but it used to be called K107. And I used to call in there all the time to request a song or whatever. And there was the main primetime DJ was a girl named Carly Rush, but she would always tell me how recognizable my voice was. And then one day she goes, "How old are you?" I said, 15. She's like, "Oh my God, you sound like you're 25." That was the first time she goes, "You need to do radio." And I remember vividly. She goes, "The guy that does our announcements, the bumpers, the K107. He was like, that guy makes $100,000 a year." And that was back, in the 90s. I'm like, holy shit, $100,000 a year. That's like a fortune to me now. It's nothing now, but it's like, it's oh my God, a guy gets $100,000 a year for talking. Who does that? I didn't know that was a thing. And then I heard, Don LaFontaine, the voice of God, the former movie trailer guy. And of course, he was making millions of dollars. And I'm like, wow, that would be cool to do that someday. It was one of those things where I didn't think much of it until later in life. And I was just really dejected about the music industry, and, the bloom is off the rose on that thing. And I was like, what can I do that is just all me? And I don't have to rely on somebody else. So I was like, let me join voices.com and, put out some auditions and see if I can get anything, And it took me 200 auditions to get my first gig. And I guess that's not bad, because I've heard people say they took 1,000 to start off. So, but then I took some voice lessons, some speaking lessons, and that was very beneficial, because it just told me basically what I was doing wrong. And so the voice lessons were incredibly helpful. I would recommend that anybody take at least a few from a reputable voiceover artist, actor, voiceover actor, teacher. And then I decided to do demos with the incredible Chuck Duran. Chuck Duran is probably the premier voiceover producer and director in the business. He's that guy that just gets it. He just knows how to convey. And to be able to convey in words things that are really hard to describe is a gift that a lot of producers don't have. And it's very rare that you can have somebody be able to describe emotion in a proper way that you can understand it and emit it out of your mouth. So he was incredibly helpful. And after I worked with him, just my book rate skyrocketed. I mean, just putting on, you get a like or something, you get put on hold for a thing, went up probably 4 times, just from those little subtle things that make all the difference in the world. And since then, it's just been going pretty steadily. I still do, a few jobs a week. I don't pursue it as hard as I should on the social media, but then again, the virus hit and life collapsed. So we put everything on hold. Still, I still family man, and I still do my music, and it's something that I'm getting more and more serious about every day.
I would love for you to give us one of your favorite voiceovers. So, if you don't mind sharing some of your favorite characters that you like to voice sometimes.
Some of my favorite characters. Well, the only real characters that I've developed that I am going to talk about are the ones that we did for the pilot we did called Darwin's Rangers.
Mhm.
And I don't even know if the website's still up, Kim, do you know? But
I think so.
it's I do the main character is Corey. It's live. You think kind of a Blue's Clues. It's a kid show. Think Blue's Clues as a live action person and speaking to animated characters, and the characters are manatees, and because it's about the ocean and conservation of the ocean, and the main character is humanity, and that's I do that voice, and that's basically the voice you hear right now. It's my regular speaking voice. And he has a cousin from Cocoa Beach, Florida, named Marty Manatee. And Marty is significantly overweight. He has a hairy chest and a big gold medallion. He is the ultimate, very typical, stereotypical Cocoa Beach, Florida resident who recently moved from New York City. He is he's very angry, and he often has a sense of humor that's a little brash, I guess. So he, everything he does, he talks like this. Whenever he gets angry, he talks, and he runs out of breath because he's so overweight. My name is Marty Manatee, and I'm from Cocoa Beach, Florida. And it's not Florida, it's Florida. And it was hilarious because we watched Jumanji, the second Jumanji, and when The Rock was like, "Are we in Florida?" And my 8-year-old loves to imitate. He's like, "Are we in Florida?" He's like, "It sounds like Marty, Dad." He says, "Florida."
Do you find yourself like imitating people, or like you're in a group of people and they all have like different accents, and then you walk away and you have their accent?
Oh no, I can do it. And I swear to God, listen, this is the truth. People that can do mimicking are almost always musically inclined. You look at Adam Sandler, you look at Jimmy Fallon, all these guys, all of them are musicians. They can all sing, they can all hear things. And I think that, and it also helps me with languages. I pick up foreign languages pretty quickly too. And I think it's a musical thing. That, yeah, no, I can go in there and have you name the people. I mean, I can go in there and sound just like them in a few minutes. So Kim does some amazing voices too. If she hasn't done them for you, you got to make her do it. Kim, let's hear Layla. Since you're making me do voices, I want to hear Layla.
Oh my gosh, I even forgot how Layla rolls because Layla, she has.
This is bullshit right here.
No, she
because you didn't forget.
I had to get into. It's been a while since I've done Layla.
Do you need to see a saguaro cactus so that you can feel inspired? Because Layla is a saguaro cactus.
She's like, "Buenos dias." Little something.
Hola, la pequeños.
Hola, pequeños. She just has this unique tone in her voice.
Think a Mexican Mrs. Doubtfire kind of look.
There you go. It was a run by Fruity.
Kim is so talented and so good at voiceover. It's great.
Oh my gosh! When we're in his little studio, we get in this little funk, and then we're like on a roll with these characters. It's always great times.
So let's talk about your words of wisdom as we wrap up. What do you have to say to our listeners who are few in the entertainment industry? Maybe just starting out their career, maybe they're, have a pretty stable career. What do you have to say to them? Like, what keeps you inspired?
What keeps me inspired is my family, my kids, my future, and making sure that my kids have everything that they need. One of the reasons why I love doing what I do is because I can be here with my family. I have the freedom to do what I want.
Mhm.
And, money does not buy happiness, but freedom does. And if you don't have something that's grounding you, you will never find happiness. I don't care how much money you make. So, first and foremost, find what makes you happy and embrace that. Secondly, embrace the suck. Embrace the fact that you're going to fail. Embrace the fact that you're going to have to keep trying and keep learning and keep trying and keep trying and get told no and get told no. And eventually, sometimes you'll get told yes. It's kind of like dating for guys. Always asking, a couple of yeses here and now. Again, it's usually no, get the hell away from me. But, you have to understand when you're going into something as difficult as the entertainment business, as subjective as the entertainment business, that just because one person, and this has really been hard for me to accept over the years, nothing sucks worse than somebody in a real position of power, somebody you knew the name, tells you it ain't going to happen for you. I mean, that's just like, damn, that hurts.
Yeah.
So you never quit because there's always that person. Now, yeah, the odds are against you. If you're not one of their babies, the odds are against you. But you can do it. You can do it. I don't know how anybody in this business can ever reach the heights that they have reached without massive heartbreak. It's necessary. It's necessary.
Well, it's the only way to grow.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're always getting jobs, then you're going to just think that that's how it is. That's not how it is. It's very difficult.
And that right there, what you just said is what happens to a lot of young child stars. They get on that role, and you guys know, in the entertainment business, if you start booking, you just book, and you're just booked for everything, and you think that's going to just continue for years.
Right.
And suddenly you're 13, your voice is changing, you're not that cute little actor anymore, and that's why a lot of them end up having really, really hard times.
Key words of wisdom. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. We really appreciate it.
Have a wonderful week. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
High fives all the way around.
High fives all around.
Virtual high five.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us on WtFun podcast. For all our listeners out there, if you want to learn more about Jeff and his voiceover work, you can check out his website at www.jeffwellsvoice.com. Or if you want to learn more about his music producing projects, you can also visit www.soundcloud.com/JadianMusic.
Yes, and please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Rikiki Productions. Also, don't forget to leave us a message, comment, or any questions you may have for us on Facebook or Instagram at Rikiki Productions.
Yes, and make sure that you are subscribed to all of our podcast platforms so you can stay up to date on all of our latest shenanigans. We post new episodes of WtFun podcast every other Friday. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.